Hey everybody, Real with Wes coming at you day 2 here, talking about stressed out and adding a couple of question marks to the end of that. And really what I'm asking, recognize, are you stressed out? And the truth is, in everyday life, we all deal with some form of stress. We all feel attacked with stress. We feel like we're overwhelmed with stress. And this is a day-to-day part of our lives, whether we like to admit it or not. And as much as we like to use our spirituality to say, I'm never stressed out, or I overcome stress, or, I have authority over all that, we all fall prey to stress. And we have to be more humble in our approach towards it, humbling to God to admit the fact that stress does get on us, stress does get in us, and learn how to handle it better. Yesterday, I started with a lot what the origin of stress is and how it really moves in our lives. Ultimately, what it is when we're operating in fear. And so I want to get in this part today, talking about day 2, how to really get through stress and how to manage stress. And what I mean, it's not that you're never going to experience stress. I hope you hear that. Or have the opportunity to be stressed out. Or some days, let stress get the best of you. But I'm teaching you how to not let it run your life and govern you. I'm teaching you a little more, some practical steps, how to maybe start to master you so you don't become subject to it all the time and just say, I'm going to just let stress run my world. And learn how to manage it a little better. So today we're talking about being sober-minded. Now, in 1 Peter, I believe it's chapter 5, you start in verse 7, 6, 8, 9. It talks about your great enemy roaming around like a roaring lion. And we should be sober-minded. We should be aware because our adversary is coming at us. But before that, it talks about casting our care upon God because he cares for us. And then it also talks about walking in humility instead of pride. Well, there's some flow there. So stress, you're going to sit there when you're not being sober-minded. Remember, we're talking about being able to recognize we are under stress is more what I'm saying. Being aware that stress is around us, that we can be conforming to stress, that we can be submitting to stress is what we can be doing. And we have to be sober-minded. Now, there's some other things in that passage of scripture we'll get in the next 3 days. But being aware that the enemy wants us to live under stress. That he wants us to live afraid of circumstances, that he wants us always kind of running the rat race of trying to figure out, how's this going to work out? Oh my God, is this going to work out? Oh my God, is this? It's worry, it's panic, it's caring about everything, and it produces stress in our life. Because when we're under stress, we'll start being dominated by it. Our thought life will be controlled by it. Our emotions will be controlled by it. Our decision making, will be controlled about it. Take this example. You're stressed out because your wife keeps spending money. She just went out shopping. She bought some stuff. Of course, if you're like my wife, you don't have to go out online shopping anymore. The phone right here will take care of all of it for you. And you're getting frustrated, and you're frustrated, and you're frustrated. And you have to say that moment, why am I getting frustrated? Why am I letting that stress get to me? Why am I letting that consume me? And what does this do? And this getting back to sober mind. If not, you'll become intoxicated by stress and fear, which is really what I want you to see today. And all of a sudden, you'll be yelling at her. You'll be like, you stupid woman, I can't believe I married you. All you do is spend our money and this whole thing. Instead of just realizing, you know what? I'm worried she's blowing all her money. We ain't going to be able to pay the bills next week. And instead of having that conversation, instead of giving some more trust there, instead of, well, I need to correct her. I need to tell her. Did you ask maybe she had enough intelligence to manage the money well enough and not spend it? Or did you communicate those needs? Did you work together as a team? You see the different process and outcome to respond to that. But when you're under stress, when you're pressured, it intoxicates you and intoxicates your emotions. And then you fly off the handle. You make over assumptions. You make exaggerated details that you haven't even fact checked. And you realize how it starts tearing up your marriage. And you realize the greater thing you're losing is the harmony between your spouse. And you think the issue is all about her being stupid and spending the money and making sure you manage that when you're missing the greater value there. Why? Because you're intoxicated with stress. And we can be drunk on stress. I know none of you have ever been drunk or high. You're too saved for that. But if you ever have been, let's say, or anything like that, or experienced intoxication or been heavy drugged up from the hospital where it's like, man, I woke up from having a major surgery or something. You're like, all over the place. You're not in your right mind, is what I want you to see. In the same way, stress will take you out of your right mind. It will put you in a negative element, is what it will do. And it will cause you to make irrational, stupid, pardon the bluntness, but I want to be blunt, stupid stupid decisions is what it'll do. So we have to be smarter than that. It'll cause us to freeze up. Some of the notes I made, it impairs your judgment is what it does. And it causes you to freeze up or lock up your mind and keep it in a cycle. You realize you get caught in that cycle of anger, caught in that cycle of fear, caught in that cycle of emotion, and now you can't see what's up and down really. It also wants to control and dominate your attention. It wants to be a distraction. You see how the whole thing, I gave that analogy, arguing with your wife, you're not even giving attention to the real problem. The real problem is what's gotten you first of all. And you're not even resolving the real problem, which is, okay, did we balance the budget and did we communicate some issues here? See, that's the real issue is like, well, did you communicate certain things and exchange of information that needs to take first? You think yelling, fussing, and throwing a tantrum basically is going to fix the problem, and it doesn't, it makes it worse. But that's the intoxication of stress. And that's when you face it in your business decisions, on the job, everything we do in this world you can be drunk off stress. Really, the undertone is fear, by the way. What are you afraid of? What's causing the stress? You're afraid of an outcome. You're afraid of a circumstance that may not or may be based in reality. And you have to pull aside and say, okay, let me check myself. Let me come and sober up for a moment. That's what happens when you pull aside. You start to sober yourself up and not be drunk off the stress, drunk off, intoxicated off the fear. Now you're aware of what's going on. And you see the bigger issue, which is the enemy coming at you, trying to tear something up and kill, steal, and destroy. And you don't want that in your life. That's not God's intention for you. So what I encourage you today, humble yourself. Give the care over to God. Don't let the enemy intoxicate you with stress, and manage and look at what maybe is dominating my life and get outside that stress, then rejudge what you've been judging, because now you got a sober mind to judge things. Now you got a sober approach, not an irrational, not a non-logical, super highly out of control emotional experience is what you're not having anymore. And man, you're going to see things a lot different. You're going to handle things differently. You're going to approach things differently. But the biggest thing that'll come out different is the outcome of all these situations. Hope that helped you out a little bit. Come back tomorrow. We'll hit this thing again. Love you guys as always. Praying for you guys. Can't wait to get together soon, man. Be looking for some details soon. Hopefully sooner than later. We'll be getting back together, but I'm excited about that. But I won't release anything till we got something like hard set down, but we're working towards it diligently. But I pray you guys have a liberated day from stress. And I'll catch you tomorrow.